everyone, it's Crystal here, and I have another layout today with a pocket page. And this time I'm going to be documenting a very specific time here in Houston when we had that big freeze back in 2021. So this week was a little bit chaotic, stressful, also a big life-changing moment for me personally. So my whole idea for this layout was it's not your typical winter wonderland layout. It's more a documentation of the unique events that happened that week. And I wanted the page to really focus on that experience. So when I was planning this layout, I do kind of like move my photos around and cards around constantly because I don't want them to feel too heavy on one side and just kind of have this balance throughout the layout, as well as with embellishments and journaling and stuff. So I kind of do pre-plan this before I come um, sometimes and lay it out, but you'll see that later on I do make some changes because it just wasn't working out that layout. So as you can see, I am using a lot of yellow here in this layout. And the reason was because I spotted the yellow from my dog and chalk there. And I just felt like this could go with a more monochromatic vibe. It's a nice break because I really did not want to do that blue and white snowflake winter wonderland kind of layout because this was not what that was about. It is about that event of the big freeze, that freeze happening here in 2021. Again, also the layout kind of worked out because I was not really happy. I don't know what CVS is doing with their print quality. I just feel like it wasn't the greatest. So the photos did seem like they had a little were a little off with the yellow tint, but so I made that work out in my favor, right? I decided to go with that color scheme. And as you can see there, I use the vellum there to go over Let's Stay Cozy, just to kind of give it that frosty, icy feeling kind of thing to make the freeze without being too themey in this layout. Again, here I'm also using a lot of really old ancient stash here. It's some Becky Higgins cards, probably more than 10 years old from her Project Life kits that she had. And I really have a lot of these, and I just never really used them because I don't do the rounded corners in my layouts. So, but since I decided that I was going to be distressing the edges here, I figured this is a perfect opportunity to use them because it really doesn't matter if there are rounded corners. With that being said, so why did I do the distressing here? Um, I haven't distressed in a while. I mean, I have and haven't, but not really heavy as I am going to do in this layout. And recently, I've always flipping through my older albums just for ideas and inspiration. And I saw some layouts where I did do some heavy distressing just to give it texture technique. And I kind of realized how much I missed how that looked. And I wanted to incorporate that here. So yeah, I am just kind of distressing and tearing the edges of the papers to do that as well to give that distress look. Um, I also feel like it's a great way to add that texture without um, needing a ton of bulky embellishments. And again, like I said, hiding those rounded corners is a perfect opportunity to use that. So just also, I'm going to kind of use not as much embellishments here just because I am doing all of that distressing. So, like I was telling you, I mean, I'm sure if you are here in Texas, you probably vividly remember that freeze in February of 2021 and cities, towns, everyone losing power. And, here in Houston, we also, because we lost the power, we lost the water. It was a lot of things going on, and I ended up having to go stay with my grandparents because they luckily had power for the most part through the whole entire ordeal. I think we lost it when I was with them for like maybe a couple hours during one of the nights. And they were gracious enough to let me and my dog come stay with them, even though they really don't allow dogs in the house. My aunt and my cousin were in that house as well. So it was a packed house. Also during this time, I uh, got the first COVID vaccine because one of, I guess the city, one of the places that was storing them had lost power. And so then I heard through the grapevine, through a family member, that they were offering the vaccine if I could just get to the medical center, which at the time, I didn't live very far from there. So I drove myself down there and went and got the vaccine. Um, it was a very busy week for being so much not being able to do anything. It was still a very busy week. And so I'm going to be documenting all this in my journaling. So this layout is kind of atypical from what I normally do because I am going to be having a lot of journaling here. I normally don't journal that much in my layouts. I am just not a person that's really big on writing. I just has never always also been my strong suit. So I always kind of struggle with journaling in my layouts. But this one, just because, like I said, there was so much going on that it needed the journaling. I even talk about how I actually met my husband this week. We actually had our first date during that week later on in the week. And we still joke about how we met both stinking horribly because we really hadn't taken a full good shower that week because there was no water. Um, and we went on our first date and a walk in the park. He picked me up and we went for a walk in the park, him, I, and my dog. And yeah, after that, we pretty much have spent every day together. So I've said it many times already, but like I said, this was a very interesting week for me in my life. Um, that being said, you see that I've done a lot of journaling here. I did the one journaling you'll see here with my grandmother and my dog talking about how she let us stay with her and how she let chocolate stay in there. But like I did that, I did the distressing of each individual line here. I thought it was just a different way. I remember when um, I used to use my typewriter and I would type and like cut in between each of the rows to give each line. I thought I would do that here and just use the distressing. I use that Tim Holtz distressor as well. Um, and then I also did some more journaling, as you can see on those two other cards here, talking about just all the things that happened that week. Um, yeah, so between all of that, all those things that happened, I needed to fit all this on to these cards here. Um, and because of that, like I said, I had to keep the embellishments. I didn't feel like that needed lots of embellishments. So you'll see that I do pull out some label stickers and I do pull out some little enamel dots. I did find when I was looking through my things, I did find that winter is coming. I think that came from a messy box thing because it was a what was it, a four by no, two, no, 3 by 3 square, maybe? It was a little square. And I decided to trim it down. Um, and you'll see here, I thought that was a great thing. I used that stamp, that circular stamp that says, "These photos are my life." I felt that was just appropriate. And, I think those are old. It's either Ali Edwards or Technique Tuesday. I don't remember with that camera. And that went great. Thought below and the street view of where I used to live. Um, and so I just thought those and let's stay cozy. I thought that was perfect for my dog and I. And like I said, I put that vellum on there. So as you can see, I have those journaling cards. I'm just trying to figure out how to make them work in that down in that bottom pocket there as well. Um, and as I was doing this, it just felt weird. It felt uncomfortable. It felt heavy. But I'm gonna percolate on it and figure out what I want to do. I do add, you saw I added the little tiny attacher staples just to give it a little bit of the more texture here. Um, and I think I'm gonna look through real quick. Um, oh, I think I was pointing there in that picture back there. I actually had some scrapbooking stuff back there on my table. Who knew? So I was trying to figure out what I could do. It says winter is coming, and I wanted to use the phrase "it is here." It is here because obviously winter came. So I'm just looking through my embellishments here to see what would work. I knew I wanted to add some labels here to the pictures of my dog. And as I'm still doing this, I'm like, things were just still feeling a little off balance for me. So I'm just going to kind of look through what I have that can work. I knew I wanted to add, like I said, the winter is coming, and I wanted to add something more to continuous that, saying like it is here. And I knew I wanted to maybe probably add that to one of the pictures of chalk there in the snow. But I also wanted to still keep the flow of the photos to work with the story. So, I'm just gonna keep looking through and seeing what other items I could find in my, stash here and see what I can make work. So I found, these yellow labels here, and I'm also gonna use some of these little tiny wooden, alpha stamps, and I wanted to type out or stamp out, "It is here." And as you can see, I was making mistakes, so I was having to multiple type it or stamp it out multiple times here. So I'm gonna continue stamping that out and trying to figure out where exactly am I going to make all of this work on this layout. Um, yeah, I think those are just from like Hobby Lobby or something like that. So like I wanted to add that to winter's coming. I'm trying to see if I can make it fit underneath winter is coming. That it is here, and I just wasn't liking. I was not liking how it went. Um, and so I thought, okay, maybe I can put it here with chalk, and that's why you can see I moved some of my photos around. And so I'm just gonna fuss around with this and try and figure out how I want this to flow, um, and just make it feel balanced. It was just things just were not feeling right. Like I said earlier, the let it journaling there on the bottom left, something felt off with that. The is here. I just couldn't get it to work. So I think I'm gonna step away from that for a moment and just add here. I was gonna add a little Amy Tangerine, like a little puffy house that was in yellow. Still keeping with that yellow monochromatic theme throughout this layout. And I'm just gonna leave it there for a moment. And I think that now I'm gonna pull out the enamel dots to add to the title up there, the big freeze, and elsewhere into this layout. So I just like to do three little clusters when I do my enamel dots. Again, there's a lot of, this is the part where in my layout, just things were not feeling right. Was liking everything up until now. So I decided to move that label sticker to the right-hand side of that photo and add that little puffy house there, and also add the cluster of the three enamel dots. And then I thought about adding some enamel dots to the journaling here, just to give those a little bit some texture and breakup in this layout. I do step away from this, I believe, for a bit because just things weren't working. So now I'm going to fuss around with it and continue trying to figure out where things will fit. And as you'll see, I decide to break up the journaling here. I decide to stack it on top of each other, and and move the photo of chalk over to the right hand side in the snow. Um, like I said, I was trying to keep that flow of the story here. And adding that is here. If I remember correctly, I restamp it again just because it wasn't coming out. I'm going to add the date stamp there to under the title. And yeah, and then I think once that's all done, I call this layout complete. So between the heavy journaling and all the distressing, there's definitely a lot going on visually here. However, I think the spreading out the journaling cards and keeping the embellishments minimal, it really shows that the photos in the story take the center stage and just sharing all the events that happened that week for me. Um, there was just a lot to document. So I thank you guys for watching this process with me, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.